Today we're going to talk about something that is going to excite a few people, because this is kind of like maybe the direction they're going to be in. We're going to talk about album cover art. Now, album cover art is really important. I have bought more than a few albums just because I liked the cover. And that doesn't mean that when I got it home and I listened to it, I didn't like it, but what I'm saying is art can actually cause people to buy stuff that you wouldn't normally buy because you like that cover. A good example for me, for instance, I bought this without even listening to it, is Cheap Thrills. I really loved the cover because I was reading Zap Comics back in the 60s, and then this Cheap Thrills comes out, and it's drawn by, what is his name? Richard Crumb? I don't remember. R. Crumb. Let's just say that. I just liked the cover. But then I found out Janis Joplin, she's out of this world with this album. This is, in my opinion, her very best album. There's some greatest hits albums that have a lot of the stuff from here and from some of the other albums that she was into. But this was a great album. Now, psychedelic, okay? I bought this album because I love the psychedelic. I never even heard of these people. But it turned out to be a pretty good album. And after that, I bought the second album. And maybe they've got more, but I just have these two albums. I bought the second album. The first one is, I don't remember what it was called. It's called The Incredible String Band. But the second one was The Hangman's Daughter. That was another exercise in listening to a lot of stereo stuff, because things are, kind of going on. And some really good stuff. But I digress. This album here, this Bob Dylan album, Highway 61 Revisited, was a really different cover. I liked it because it had one of my favorite songs on it, but at the same time, Jimi Hendrix and Are You Experienced? I wore out 2 or 3 of these because it was one of those kinds that you put it at the beginning and you listen to the end, and you put it at the beginning, you listen to the end, and there's some that you really like and some that you really, really like. But I don't know if there's anything that's bad in that one. It was a good album. As far as an album cover is concerned, though, I really liked this one of his more. I didn't know anything about India art. Okay, I didn't know anything about any of this other stuff, but I found this very psychedelic, and it was very cool. And back then I used to have these lights in my bedroom that would twirl, they would twirl all the different colors. And then when you flash it onto this album, it would kind of make it come alive. Here's probably one of the most iconic albums out there. Very recognizable. People go to England to stand in the same intersection to try to duplicate this kind of thing because it's so iconic. This is my favorite Beatles album. And look at the art that's involved in this. I mean, this was just a huge art cornucopia. I don't know. I can't think of the right word, but great album. Only 39 minutes altogether from both sides. But so much was done and so much was said. After the Beatles came out with their Sgt. Pepper's, the Rolling Stones wanted to come out with something, because they were kind of like battling each other for who's the best band from England or Great Britain. And so they came out with this one here. Now I can tell you this album cover it's actually it's the plastic stuff that as you turn it, it would move, and different things would happen while it moved. I should have probably brought mine out and moved around so you could see it. The album cover was far greater was far greater than the material inside, though. But I bought the album because I liked the album cover. And there was 4 good songs on this album that I'll list right here. But a lot of the other stuff wasn't that good. How about this? I've already shown this before, but this album, when it came out, that's very simple art. You've got a prism, you got white light coming in one side and rainbow coming out the other side. That's very iconic. I still see people with this album cover on their t-shirts as they're walking around. So it's still popular. This one here, Big City, Merle Haggard. The neat thing about this is it just says, you know, I'm sitting here on my bed and I'm composing, creating a song. And you look behind and you can see the cities out that window behind him through the curtains, and I love his boots. This just has such a nice feel to it. It's just, I felt like this before, where I'm sitting in this apartment in Portland, Oregon, with my guitar, and I'm looking out that apartment window. I'm on the 2nd floor and I'm looking out, and I've had that feeling. Anyways, great album cover. I kind of wanted to throw in a disclaimer at this point. You know, a lot of these album covers that I've been showing you, I feel were iconic, and I feel they were fabulous album covers. And obviously I'm pulling them from the 60s, 70s, and maybe a little bit of the 80s. Maybe a smattering of the 90s, but the point I'm trying to make here is it's my opinion that these are good art. They appealed to me, and they appealed to a lot of other people, like I was saying with certain ones. But this album cover sold this guy a lot of records. First off, he came up with this iconic song that everybody knows. This is Kenny Rogers, by the way, and this is The Gambler. Does that say that? Yeah, it does. But this album here by Donovan, Sunshine Superman, arguably, this is one of my favorite albums for a couple reasons. First off, every song is good. It came out at a time when I was 16, very impressionable, and I was already writing poetry. And I would listen to the words, and the feel of the music with the words. It was just a great album. We're talking about art, though, and I loved the art on this because it was kind of Art Deco, Art Nouveau, I don't know. I've got one of my favorite books or artists from that period was this guy here, Nietzsche. And this was right after, well, there was a couple different movements of art, but this came out probably in the 1890s, it was developing in that particular arena. And this brought on Art Deco. This was before Art Deco, but that was the feel that I got from this Donovan album. Okay, how about this one here? Born to Run. So what we see here in this picture is it's just very well placed. You see the guitar comes down and touches the bottom corner, and then it comes over and touches the right hand side, and it looks like he's leaning on the left hand side, but he's got this grin on his face, like he's really happy. And I remember seeing this in the stores when it came out, and I was thinking, is he in jail? You know, there were stories about Merle Haggard going to jail for smoking pot, and there was stories about Johnny Cash getting busted and stuff during that period of time. But this was a great album. It had some really good music, but from the artistic perspective, it's like he's he's got this guitar strap, so he's right next to a microphone, and he's looking down over at you while he's singing. And that's the thing about that gets your attention, is he's including you in what he's doing, and that's what makes this a great album. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is the time frame that it takes for you to put something together. It depends on how much you're into this. Now, some of you that are musicians that are listening to this probably don't have to worry about this, because you're going to get your friend to create some kind of art to put on there. I've heard a lot of people do that. Most all these other albums that we talked about, they didn't do it themselves. They all had other people doing that for them. But if art is one of the things that you want to do, because it's something that I feel I need to do, look at this here. This took me 2 months to put this together. And I'm not saying like 1 hour here and 1 hour 3 days or 4 days. I was working on this a lot. And I was using the GIMP or GIMP to take the background out, and then I constructed this. And a lot of you've noticed in the background over here, I have that same art on my wall. But it took me a long time to put that together, to put that album together. And I was using kind of Art Nouveau, or Nouveau, I don't even know how to say that. But it was a certain kind of period of art, 1870 or 1890, somewhere in that area. Because you see the circle and something juxtaposed out of it, like my guitar, and all those animals going around. And I've got a circle of fifths going around there. If you're looking at that, you can see all those things. And you say to yourself, wow, you sure did put a lot of stuff in there. More so, I wanted to, because this was an album called Resilient, I wanted to have it reflect endangered species. And the album was about the homeless and their struggles. Here's a cool album. This also came out in the 60s. This here is, what is his name? Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brass. This guy was great, and I don't know if you know this or not. I read this somewhere, and maybe it's true now or maybe it's not, but this guy made more money in the 60s than any other rock group, than any other performer, basically because he transcended a lot of different arenas. Okay, let's look at this, because we're doing a country and western album, and I wanted to kind of exemplify some country and westerns. How about this one? This was a sleeper. You know, the Byrds, they had some really good stuff that came out in the 60s. And I've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 of their albums, but including this one here. This album here, the reason why this was so iconic was because they took on some other people. Parsons, I think, is one of them. And they went a different direction in their music. It wasn't country and western. It wasn't rock and roll. It was kind of a blend of those two, and it had a nice down-home country feel. Also, it has one of my favorite Byrd songs on this album, which is the Dylan song called Down in the Easy Chair. And frankly, when I was doing our music, and I say our, I'm talking about the Baldwin brothers doing all this stuff, and that's including Charlie. Charlie's got a different last name, but you know, he grew up with us, and so he is one of us. And we used to do that song, Down Easy Chair. It's a good song. Garth Brooks, he just kind of came out of nowhere, but he had a different style than anybody else at the time. So much so that when he came out, other people started copying his stuff. because, well, because it was a direction that people were going. How about this? George Jones. Now, a lot of people loved him, a lot of people didn't like him at all, you know, but he had a strange voice that I could imagine a couple of my songs actually being done by him. But this album cover, I mean, he's got this weird suit on and this strange shirt underneath, and it's the smile on his face that says, hey, I got some good stuff here. You want to listen to it? So, let's talk about this Randy Travis album. Now, what I love about this Randy Travis album is it's almost timeless. I mean, he's got this 1952 truck that he's leaning up against there. And he's got this old country store sort of look that's in the background there. And frankly, it's like a feed store, which I'm thinking that's probably what it is. I would venture to say that there's a building that looks almost identical to that out in East Olympia, out by where the old train station used to be, that it brings back good memories, because I've been in that store and bought some good stuff, but it just brings Americana kind of friendliness to this particular album that makes you say to yourself, I want to buy that album. I want to hear what he has to say. How about this one? This was a great album. Came out in the 80s. Probably, well, in my opinion, one of his best albums. Had a lot of good stuff. Sold a lot of millions and millions of records because of this. Plus, he also had all those videos that coincided with some of the music in there. So, yes, Michael Jackson. He was really a great artist. How about this one here? Now, there's not much to this album, right? It's all bright red with black lettering and a person in black clothes and a black hat drawing for his gun. Gunfighter Ballads. You know that one song that we have called The Contract, or a gunfighter song? I could imagine Marty Robbins being able to do this song. The reason this album is important is because David Bowie, he was already making a name for himself, and this particular album, Aladdin, if you look at the art, you could do this art very easily yourself. You know, he's got a painted face, he's got a pink tinge to the whole thing with a white background, and he's got red highlights or orange highlights with black in his hair. It's good art. You know what also is good art? This here. By the way, this album here by Miles Davis, called Bitches Brew, I bought it because of the album cover. When it came out, I really liked it. I remember I was upstate New York in Monticello at one of the record stores that they had there. Actually, I think they didn't have any record stores. They had stores that sold records, but they weren't exclusively record stores. They did have a head shop across the street that sold some records. But anyways, I bought this, and I think I bought it for like $3.50 when it came out. Kind of not really expecting anything. You know, I knew Miles Davis did jazz, but the stuff that was in here was phenomenal. It may be his best album ever, and I loved it. I never really expected I was going to be listening to it that much. Okay, how about this? Elvis Presley. I mean, this album says everything. This album cover, the art of this album cover shows everything. Shows he's playing guitar. He's got his mouth wide open, ready to say or singing something. It's in black and white, but you have pink letters of Elvis and green letters of Presley going the other side. And to augment that, up at the right-hand corner, it's got the same color schemes, saying certain things. A great album. But a great album cover. Some of you out there are great musicians and great poets, but you don't really feel like this is something you want to get into as far as making your own album cover. So that's okay. Find somebody that you know that can do that for you, and then put them in that position, commission them to be able to do an album cover. And that art normally equates to two sides. You got the front and you got the back. Okay, so you always have to keep that in mind. But for those of you that this isn't necessarily your bag, let me show you this here. This is obviously one of Lord Baldwin's album covers. This is Dejando la Galaxia. It was a great space jazz, rock and roll collection of songs that were related to out there to some degree. But I commissioned one of my grandchildren to do this, Finley, and they put this together. And not only did they put this together, this was it exceeded my expectations. It really did. And when I asked them to do it, there wasn't really any expectations that there was going to be some money passing back and forth. There was. But what I'm trying to say here is that they did it because they wanted Grandpa to be happy. And he was. Now I will tell you, I did the lettering on this, and I also embellished it with a couple extra little space devices flying. But everything else, that's my Hercules. That's the name. It's P-E-R, the letter Q, and L-E-Z-Z, Hercules. He's from another planet. But long and short of it is, that may be a route that you want to go. Get somebody else to do that art, and you can concentrate on the things you want to do, the things you love to do. And so there you go. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks. Here's another garbage book. Rope in the Wind. I love this album cover because he's got this black and blue shirt on that almost makes him look like he's a football referee, except it's blue instead of white, black and white. And he's got this rolling clouds going by. He's got this oversized black hat, and he's looking at you like, what do you think about this one? Now, this is my favorite Taylor Swift album cover. I don't have any Taylor Swift albums. No offense, Taylor. Or Miss Swift, but no offense. It's just, you came out when I was still, I didn't have a lot of money, and I have, frankly, listened to a lot of her stuff. And if you've been listening to these podcasts, you heard about my fall from grace. Speaking about color, look at this one here. This is George Strait. Now, what's iconic about this is, number one, he's got this wonderful look on his face like, I'm having a lot of fun. You listen to my album, you will too. He's got that huge white hat that says, I'm one of the good guys. I really am. And he's wearing this pink shirt. Now, the reason why I think that this album stands out is because that pink shirt is very non-threatening. He seemed like a very easygoing guy. Well, here's this one here. I was talking about in the 60s, and that was during psychedelic time. And so what they did was they took this picture and then they morphed the colors. The inverted is the term that they use. I think this is a second inverted color, because the first inverted would go a different direction. But this was a strange album. Okay, how would I end this? Well, here's the Flaming Grooves. As far as art is concerned, it's really cool because it's got these cartoon characters that look like they came out of a Max Fletcher cartoon. Okay, what about this one? Country and Western, very iconic. This was kind of like a super session for country and western. Now this last one I'm going to show you is Quicksilver Messenger Service. Now this isn't necessarily my favorite album of theirs, but I bought this one mainly because I love the cover. You've got this guy riding off in a horse and he's waving goodbye with his hat, reminiscent almost. Look how beautiful this is. I really feel sorry. I'm getting out of character here. Let's not worry about that. Let's just say I bought this because of the album cover, and it was a good album. There was good stuff on it. Seems to me like. Did I mention, speaking about psychedelic, how about this one here? Because we're not talking about art. This was Grateful Dead called The Anthem of the Sun. And they have one song that I think pretty much takes all of one side, which I think is called The Anthem of the Sun. It was a good album. Grateful Dead. I don't have all the Grateful Dead stuff. I got a few of their stuff. This was a really good album, though. My favorite album is A Working Man's Dead. That was, to me, that was the best Grateful Dead album that came out. It was just good stuff. Just good stuff. Okay, I digress. So, we've now gone way over, so I think I'm going to have to put this into two different camps. Part 1 and Part 2. Because I think I'm only allotted 30 minutes altogether. So, of course, maybe I can cut some of this out. But you get the idea of this art. This is what we have to do. We have to do this if we're going to sell albums. Now, obviously, I wasn't looking to sell albums. Frankly, I'm still not looking to sell albums. I'm looking more to just get them out there so people can listen to them. But that's me. If you're going to be going at this from a commercial standpoint, then your art has to be good. That's the bottom line. So, talk to you later. Hope you get some good ideas for the art that you want to do for your albums, because let's do that on the next episode, because I'm going to walk you through doing some art, okay? And then we'll go from there. Thanks. Thank you.